Hello niece and nephew. Today Uncle Sam is going to teach you how to use the Laravel to make the good egg fried rice. No, sorry, not the egg fried rice. Is to make the good website. That's right. Use the Laravel to make good website. Okay. Let us begin. So let's have an overview without Uncle Roger. So firstly, of course, we will cover who we are, and then we will talk about what is web programming, and then we'll do a little bit of installations, and then we will talk about what is PHP, what is the PHP framework, and what is Laravel and how we use it. Okay, and then at the end we will have a brief Q&A session. Alright, so who are we? We are a dedicated software development team and web design studio based right here in Penang. So we specialize in all things cloud-based. Okay, so we do websites and e-commerce and a lot of cloud-based business management systems, so like payroll software, and we also do mobile apps. Okay, so that's our team there. So let's move along. What is web programming? So I'm sure you guys who have attended our sessions before have heard this quite a few times. So again, I would emphasize programming is a language. Okay, so what does that mean? That means although you may think that programming requires you to be really good at math, actually people who are good at learning languages fare better at programming. But that doesn't mean that you don't need your math. You still need some good math, okay? But really it's about talking to the computers and listening to what the computers say. So when the computer coughs up a bug, it's time to listen in. Okay, so the most common web programming languages tend to be HTML, of course, PHP, and JavaScript. So JavaScript is pretty popular. I think it's one of the most popular web programming languages so far. You may have heard of it. Okay. So what is the difference between normal, regular desktop programming and web programming? So the main difference is that web programming requires you to talk to a server, the cloud, because you need to retrieve information from the cloud, okay, and display it. Whereas desktop programming, it just runs on your computer, everything right there. Okay, so you may recognize some of these symbols like C++, C#. You've probably heard of it before. Java. What are these two snakes doing bent over backwards? This is Python, also a very popular language. Okay, and over here on the right we have HTML, JavaScript, CSS, PHP. Okay, the usual suspects. Right. So of course we have to talk about what is front end and what is back end. Okay, so think of it this way. Imagine you are looking at your home, right, or a building. So the outside, what the public sees, what everyone sees, is the front end. Okay, so if you have a key, you can go in and walk into the building, and you can access things like the water piping, the electrical wiring, all the infrastructure inside the house. That is the back end. Okay, it is what holds the building up and makes it function. Turn the lights on and that kind of thing. Okay, so I won't go into too much detail, but you should know that of course different languages play different parts and cater to different sections of a website, of a building. Okay, so PHP is a backend one. Okay, so that means it helps to make sure all the data you need from the cloud is there at your fingertips. Alright, so as I mentioned earlier, PHP, of course, the language that we covered last time. In case you're not sure, here is a crash course of what PHP is and how it works. So PHP is a server-side scripting language, and what that means is it isn't run on your computer, it is run on the cloud. So what happens is your device, so your phone, your tablet, your computer, will attempt to run a PHP file, a PHP command, and instead of running it on your computer, it will send a request over to the server, which is the cloud. Okay, and then the server computer will go, we have a PHP request, let's do something in response. Okay, so it will send whatever information, the page, the the image to your device. Okay, so that's what PHP does. So why is this important? Well, it's because we need to interact with databases. Okay, so what are databases? What is the server? This is the server. Oh. So the server is the cloud, and the cloud is basically someone else's computer. Okay, lots and lots of computers stacked up. Okay, so this is like a server room. Okay, and that pretty much handles a lot of information. Information that we want to make available to the public, and maybe not all the public, but the people with the right passwords. Especially like banking and government private information. We want some people to access it, but not everyone. Okay, so of course there's security involved, right? Yes. So yes, I'm sure you guys are familiar with what a server is. Now the next step is to create your own server. That's right. You can turn your PC into a web server, into your own cloud, your very own cloud. And by doing so, you can then host your own website on your own computer. Isn't that cool? All right. So how do we do that? Well, you got to get you some programs. Okay. So there's this one called XAMPP. Don't worry what it stands for. It's just a program that will simulate a server. Okay. So if you're familiar with servers, you'll know that there is this thing called Apache, MySQL. Okay. So these are just different types of servers, and all you have to do is hit the start button. Okay. Yes. So once you have that running, once you got your server, your own little server on your computer, then you'll need this other thing. This guy, Composer. I imagine he's supposed to be some famous Mozart, Beethoven dude, I guess. Okay, so what is Composer? Composer is a tool that is used to manage PHP code. Okay, so it's used to manage libraries, and basically Laravel that I mentioned needs to use Composer to handle its code. Okay, so before you can run Laravel, you need to install this thing called Composer. Hey, look, that Composer guy, he changed his outfit. Looks kind of familiar, doesn't he? Looks a bit like this guy. Yes. Anyway, not relevant. Okay, so what is Node.js? Okay, so Node.js is this JavaScript system. It's basically it's like an environment. It's a library of code that allows you to execute JavaScript code outside of a web browser. You don't need to worry too much about what it is. You just need to know how to use it. Okay, so it is JavaScript for server side. So what that means is, so JavaScript normally runs on your browser, if you remember my JavaScript session. But for Node.js, it actually runs on the server. Okay, or it runs outside your browser. Okay, so the best part of all this is that it's free. That's right. It's free to use, at least for now. Okay, so now I need you guys to go ahead and install. Okay, so here are some links. The links should be in your worksheet, and just go ahead and download these. Don't worry, the file size isn't very big, and they don't require a lot of memory to run. Okay, so just go ahead and get that XAMPP and that Composer dude. Okay, just go click on the links, download it. Here, I give you guys some time. Go ahead, install it, and I will wait maybe 5, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, right. So I'll guide you through the installation. So after you get your XAMPP, so you just have to download it, open it up, and install it. Once you're installed, assuming you don't run into any funky errors, if you do, Max and I will be on standby to assist. But if all goes well, this is what you should see. Okay, so go ahead and start that first one, Apache, like the helicopter. Okay, hit start. Okay, and once it is turned on, then we can go ahead and you can install the Composer. Okay. Boop. Okay, so when you install Composer, be sure to select this to run your PHP code, okay, which is the XAMPP. So of course it doesn't have to be exactly this, you just have to browse and find the link that you have installed your XAMPP in, okay? Alright, and then after that, it's time to open up that command prompt. Yeah, makes you feel like a hacker, doesn't it? It's cool. Okay, so yeah, then you just gotta type some of this code in. Not to worry, we'll guide you through this. But just go ahead and type it and hit the enter, clickety click. Okay, and then you should be ready to rumble. Okay, ready. All right, so now that we're talking about PHP, the next thing we should talk about is PHP Framework. So last session you learned how to code in PHP, okay, but that gets kind of tedious because you have to do it line by line, it takes a while. So what we have now is the technology to go further and faster, okay? So we use these things called PHP frameworks. So it basically it's like building a house, except instead of having to go one brick at a time, one slab at a time, you just have this. You just start with this, wham. Okay, see like that dude there. You don't want to be that dude. Well, you kind of do, but you got to be. You got to start with something, and then you build on top of it. Okay, you build upon the foundation, upon the shoulders of giants, as a famous person once said. Okay, so that is what a framework does. Okay, it builds the foundations, and then it lets you leapfrog. It lets you create better things faster. Okay. So PHP frameworks, as I mentioned, provide a basic structure, and Laravel is one of those frameworks. So we use frameworks because they speed up the development process. So a lot of standard things like a login page, some basic security features, the standard menu items, these kind of things that basically every system will need, they have built, okay, and we have built, and so you don't need to build it again. Just use the framework. Okay, so here are some popular PHP frameworks. Ba-bam. Okay, so CodeIgniter, Symfony, Cake PHP, OpenCart. OpenCart is a very popular one for e-commerce. So for those of you who have used sites like Lazada, Shopee, you know that e-commerce sites have a standard feature. You got to show the product, you got to let people choose the color and the sizes, right? Put a quantity, and then they got to add it to their cart. Okay, so all these are already built. So if you want to build your own e-commerce, you can. Okay, because OpenCart is also free. Yes, I mean you have to know how to tinker with it a little bit. So this is what you guys are learning now, a bit of coding. Okay, so now you know. Okay, so of course Laravel is what we're going to be talking about today. So what is Laravel? Laravel is a free open source PHP web framework created by this person called Taylor Otwell. Okay, and it uses the Model View Controller (MVC) architectural pattern. Okay, so why Laravel? Because it is a very expressive and elegant piece of code. But I'll tell you more about why we use Laravel. So Laravel is great because it utilizes all the latest PHP features. Okay, yeah, like all that blah blah blah. Okay, and it's got great documentation because everybody loves documentation. Yes, so a lot of people use it as well, so that helps. Okay, and it makes for really fast development. Okay, it's really good. It's one of the better PHP frameworks out there. And as I mentioned, it uses the Model View Controller, the MVC architectural pattern. So what that means is, I'll get into that a bit later. Okay, but it is a new way of handling information. Okay, and Laravel has superb security. Okay, so it's got a lot of built-in authentication, sessions, so password validation. So when you log in, it ensures that it's you. Okay, it uses tokens, sessions, and it has encryption. It has built-in encryption, and yeah, lots of cool things. And it prevents silly things like SQL injections and all these. Okay, so and it also comes with a lot of packages, resources. So like I mentioned, a lot of people use it. So a lot of people build additional things for Laravel. Okay. Oh yeah. Oh, it's good. Okay, so here are some things that I mentioned. Like, it's very popular. It's always a good thing. Lots of people use it. Okay, that means it's been tried and tested. Stands the test of time. It's got the latest PHP support, a lot of built-in components. Database migrations, that just means it handles versions very well. So if you and your another friend and a third friend are all coding on the same Laravel platform, then you can use migrations to control the versions so that it will keep track of who did what at what point in time. Okay, that's all you need to know. I won't go too much into it. Okay, so what is this model view controller MVC thing I keep talking about? Okay, so you have these three main aspects: the model, the view, and the controller. Okay, so we start down here. We are the user. Okay, and it goes this way. Okay, so we talk to the controller. Okay, so this controller then talks to the model. Model then talks to the view, and then the view sends it back to us, which shows us something. Okay, so yeah, that's right. Models, oh yeah, and controllers, yeah. You guys know these, right? Okay, so pretty much what we do is we grab a hold of a controller and we press the buttons. We spam, XX, AA, left, L1, R2, start, whatever. Okay, so we mash the buttons, so which is picked up by this controller. Okay, and then it passes whatever buttons we hit to the model, this nice lady here. Okay, and she goes, oh cool, you want these things. Okay, so and then she will send the updates to the view, and the view is what we see with our eyes. Okay, so pretty much these three: model, view, controller, model, view, controller. Okay, remember that, because you're gonna be tested on it. No, I'm just kidding. But it will come up later. Okay, it will be relevant. So as I mentioned, here's how it works with this dude in a suit instead of the lady. Okay, so first things first, we, user, here, you, send a request to the controller. Controller talks to the model, model talks to the database. Okay, database goes, you want this thing, okay, sends it back to the model, model sends it back to the controller, controller talks to the view, which translates whatever information is being sent, and then it shows it to us. See, 5 simple steps. Okay, very good. Okay, so as I mentioned before, here are some other things why we should use Laravel, because it is so elegant, so simple, very readable. Okay, so it is it's great. It's got a really low learning curve. So the fun part is just the initial installation, but once you get it going, it really helps to guide users to use good coding practices. I guess, yeah. Okay. All right, let's move along. So there's a modern framework for a modern people, which is you guys. Okay, so here are all the cool things that it has: routing, modeling, template, systems, blah 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 blah. Okay, don't worry about memorizing all this. It's not going to be in the test. So you ready? Start your engines. Let's get started. Okay, so as I mentioned, you're going to need these things. You got them yet? Now is the last chance for you to get it ready. Okay, so now that you have those XAMPP and composers, you want to enter this code. Okay, so you want to install Laravel. Okay, the final step. So this is what you should see. Installing. Okay, so there you go. You have your house. This is the base house of Laravel. Okay, so now that you've got the base, you wanna understand it a bit more. Okay, so we're gonna talk a little bit of theory, but I'll try to put it in terms that you can understand. All right, so let's go. Okay, Laravel directory structure. Oh my goodness gracious, what is all this? So okay, basically what all these are is folders. You're familiar with folders. You guys have used Windows Explorer. Okay, so once you install Laravel, it will install all these files. Okay, so what are all these directories? You don't need to memorize them because they're all here. as you move along, you will know what goes where. So it's very organized, and all these folders are basically rooms. See this? The rooms are all built for you. You don't have to build it one file, one line, one brick at a time. It's all there. Okay, all the rooms. You just need to know how to get to these rooms. So how do you get to these so-called directories? You use the routes. Okay, so routing is a very essential concept in Laravel. So basically, routing allows you to talk to the controller. So remember I mentioned you got to button bash those controllers. So routing is just the way that is handled. Okay, so routing is the corridors. So you go down a route to get to a room. Okay, so likewise, Laravel will let you get places if you know the right input. Okay, so here is how the routes work. Okay, route get function this thing. Okay, don't worry too much about this. It's just you know, you gotta understand the routing. Okay, here's some more route. Here's some sample code. Okay, route, use this route, get, this is a command, or post, or put, or delete. Okay, so each of these commands does something different. Don't worry too much about it. Basically, we'll get into the nitty-gritty, but you don't actually need to use too much code, because again, this is a framework. Right, we're trying to do away with as much code as possible. Okay, we're trying to make it easier. That's right. Pop quiz. All right, what does the C in MVC stand for? You got 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, you remember it stands for controller. All right. Okay, so let's go through again how it works. Remember I mentioned you gotta remember this. So MVC. Model, view, controller. Okay, so we're going to quickly talk about the controller. So what does this controller do? Okay, so the controller talks to the client. The client is us. Okay, so number one is the controller. Okay, and then we're going to talk a little bit about the views. Okay, which shows us the stuffs, and then we're going to talk about the model. Okay, which talks to the database. Okay, so it's kind of like its own little ecosystem. Okay, so first, controller. As I mentioned, the C stands for controller, and it directs the traffic between the views and the models and us. Okay, so it handles logic. Okay, so here's what it looks like. Okay, and it is stored in the controller directory. So there's a room for controllers. That's all you need to know. Okay, number one. Number two, the views. So in MVC, the V stands for views, and what does the views do? It separates the application logic from the presentation logic. Again, yeah, don't need to worry too much about all this logic stuff. Basically, it makes it easy to access and for you to see what you need to see. Okay, so it converts things into the HTML, which we can use. And, okay, so as I mentioned earlier, I don't know if you remember, but Laravel uses this thing called Blade template, okay, which works hand in hand with views. Okay, and then lastly, there is the models. Okay, the models, which is represented by the M. Okay, so the models part handles the business logic. Okay, so the model is the part that talks to the database. So it handles all the incoming in and out of the data. Okay. So it talks to the tables, it retrieves the data, and it sends it off to the controller. Okay, and again, the models has its own little directory, its own room of models. Okay, so I mentioned this guy. So I don't know if you guys know who he is. It's kind of scary, huh? You know who he is? His name is Blade. Okay, so he's pretty rad. But yeah, so Laravel has this thing called Blade. I don't know why it's called Blade, don't ask me. But Blade is a simple yet powerful templating engine. So what that means is basically Blade kind of standardizes the code so that you don't need to repeat yourself too often. Okay, so what that means, it's when we say it's driven by inheritance and section. So when we say that it has its template inheritance, means that it is the same thing across the entire platform. Okay, keeps it constant. like kind of what JavaScript, what CSS does, right? Okay, and then sectioning is just a way of compartmentalizing your code. Okay, so blades are compiled into PHP code and cached. So that just means that it doesn't affect the performance. So it's only summoned when it is required, like when the vampire is running around. Okay, so again, you don't need to worry too much about this. It's just in case you see a .blade file, blade.php file, then you know what's happening. You know what's happening. Okay. So again, the part that I mentioned, you see this at section. So that's how you section it. So this part, this little section, is called this. Okay. All right. And then now we talk about the database. Okay. So which is the part that the model section deals with. So Laravel uses two ways of talking to the database. Okay. So the eloquent ORM, which stands for what is it? Object relatability, something, doesn't matter. Anyway, what that means is it talks, it has a very efficient way of retrieving data from the database. Okay, same with Query Builder. These two work hand in hand. It's already built into Laravel. Don't worry too much about it. Don't worry about it for now. Okay, it's just a bit of theory. Okay, so this is what the eloquent ORM looks like. Okay, and this is what Query Builder looks like. Yeah. How's your head? Hurt? Getting a bit of a headache there. Yeah, me too. Okay, so what is all this jibber jabber about? Okay, well, like I mentioned, we have the rooms, we have the corridors, we have a nice building. It is amazing. So this building is basically prefabbed. It is built. This is Laravel. Okay, so why do we go through all that stuff just now, talking about models and views and controllers? It is because these systems make up all these buildings. All right, so we have some structure. So what does that look like? Looks like this. Okay, so Laravel comes built with all these things. All these. You don't need to go and, create a field, call it a name, all these kind of things. The password, encryption, all that. It is ready. It is done. So this looks kind of okay. It's kind of okay, not bad. But wait till you get in there. Okay, so this is kind of what a standard Laravel interface looks like. So this is the back end. Okay, so it's got built-in, it's got a dashboard, it's got settings, it's got logout and profile and all these kind of things. It's really cool. Okay, so this is it's a package called Backpack. Okay, yeah, there you go. Some more. You like this? It's cool, right? So you can have these really cool looking dashboards, built-in graphs, and it's all built. You just have to just clickety click. You don't need to bash too much code. Okay, so next part. Now it's fun exercise time. So for this session, obviously the exercise time is going to be a bit longer because you're going to be building your very own Laravel site. So assuming you installed XAMPP and Composer and Laravel and Node.js, whatever, you can now start creating your own website. Okay, so here's what you got to do. You got to use that Laravel and you try and display your own personal profile and your own image, okay, on the front end, and make sure that you can save it and upload it to your own little server. How about that? Okay, so we will be here to walk you through the process and yeah, give that a shot. Okay, I will give you 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so in summary, Laravel is a PHP framework and a mighty good one at that. Okay, so as I mentioned, it uses the MVC architectural pattern, and it uses Query Builder and or Eloquent ROM to get data from the database, yada yada yada. It has lots and lots of useful functions, but most of all, it is a really efficient and convenient way to build a website. So if you were just going to build a blog website, I would probably say, use WordPress instead. So WordPress is another framework that I mentioned that is also built on PHP. So it also requires some setup, but probably not as much as Laravel. And it's probably a little bit faster, but not as comprehensive, not as powerful as Laravel. Okay, so thank you very much. That's all from us for now. If you have any questions, feel free to fire away. And in the meantime, stay healthy, stay cool. I hope you learned something today with us. And so again, I would say thank you from Caritech and Penang Tech Dome. And I hope you enjoyed this Learn from Home session. And have fun coding. All right. Toodles.